Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode of Faerie Fable Librarians. I'm Simona.
I'm Katie.
And today, Katie and I have something very exciting to announce to you all. We are going to be doing an Instagram Live where we will be discussing House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas in anticipation for the release of the third book, House of Flame and Shadow.
Of which we are very excited for since we had to wait 2 years for this book.
So we're going to be reading House of Sky and Breath, and we want you to read along with us and join us for the discussion, which will be taking place on January 30th on Instagram Live from 3 to 4 p.m. And we just want to make you aware, I know there are a lot of spoilers that have been going around with this series, that there will be spoilers in this short discussion that Katie and I are going to be having. And there will be spoilers, obviously, when we meet up on Instagram Live. So join us, and when you watch this video, leave some comments. If you are someone who is currently reading it or someone who hasn't yet read it but you're excited for it, let us know. We like reading your comments.
We do, very much.
So as everyone knows too, or maybe you know, Sarah released a little teaser for the third book. I'm not going to say what the teaser is because that would spoil it for people who haven't yet read.
But it's such a tease. It's not even funny.
Yes, but we're very excited. We're looking forward to it. We both pre-ordered our copies. And
some more than others.
Yes. And we will be... And we will be doing a little unboxing video as well when we get our books. If you've pre-ordered your copies, let us know which one you've pre-ordered, because I know there are, with each version, there's like a different bonus chapter. So let us know which one you ordered and why. Getting into House of Sky and Breath, and we won't be talking too much because we will be meeting up again on Instagram Live and we're going to talk more. So this is actually my third reread.
Of course it is.
Of this book.
Of course it is.
Yes. I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's my third reread. When I first read this series with House of Earth and Blood, I actually didn't like it.
I know, which is amazing, because when I started reading it, I was into it hook, line, and sinker. It was the second book series of Sarah J. Maas that I started reading, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I actually think I enjoy Crescent City far more than A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah, like from what I've, like, when I watch TikTok or Instagram, I think Crescent City and ACOTAR are the two favorite series, I would say, for most people.
Yeah.
Throne of Glass, it has been a while since I read it, but it is a fantastic series. But I would say that most people, I think it's a tie between A Court of Thorns and Roses and Crescent City.
Yeah.
I think of the two, Crescent City is my favorite, but I do love ACOTAR.
Oh yeah, just because I said that Crescent City is my favorite of the two that I've read does not negate anything doesn't negate any, what am I trying to say? It doesn't negate the fact that I absolutely love that series as well.
Yes.
So yes, it is it's like a tie for first for both series.
Yeah.
But if I had a choice, I'd probably read Crescent City first. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the world that Sarah has crafted, and I will also say there will be minor spoilers for the first book because this book continues. It picks up 3 months after the event of the first book. So also, if you're someone who hasn't started or hasn't gotten far into this book, or if you're someone who hasn't even read the first one, you might want to rejoin us later. So there will be minor spoilers. I just wanted to put that out there before. So don't watch if you haven't read it yet. So this takes place 3 months after the event of the first book.
Yes.
In which I'll briefly explain there were demons sort of broke out from hell and they were rampaging through
Midgard.
I'm going to say Lunathion. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced when we get the audiobooks, but I'm going to say Lunathion just for so they're rampaging through the city, and Bryce manages, along with the help of a few of the other major characters in this book, are able to sort of defeat the demons and save the city. They save a few lives. There are lives lost, but so this book picks up 3 months after that event. And essentially
the end of the first Crescent City book is the first book I actually cried over because and I mean, the character death wasn't a main character death. It was a minor character death, but she was so well written and so, like, Sarah has a way of writing characters, whether they're major or minor, to have such an emotional attachment to them that when she made that sacrifice, I was sobbing. So much so that my mom in the living room asked me what was wrong, and I had to say a character died.
Yes.
and she you know, she laughed at me essentially.
Yeah, but that character, and I don't want to say it because I don't want to spoil anything, is I think a pretty well liked or loved character from the series. She's very sassy. Like I really enjoyed whenever she was on the page.
Right.
It was really good. So there was a lot of upheaval in the lives of many of the characters. So there's sort of still that. So this is 3 months later. Those events are still pretty much fresh in their minds.
Yeah.
And also the Asteri have essentially told Bryce and Hunt, lay low, don't, make any waves, and you won't have any problems. So that's what Hunt and Bryce are essentially trying to do. They're trying to go back to some normalcy.
That sentence.
They're trying to go back to some normalcy. So when the book opens up, Bryce and Hunt are attending an opera. Her good friend Juniper is the lead in the opera, was
it an opera or was it a ballet?
Sorry, not opera, ballet. Sorry, a lead in ballet because her friend Juniper is a dancer, and she's tapped or so to be the principal dancer. She's extremely talented.
She's also a fawn shifter.
Yeah.
So she's got fawn feet, hooves.
It's always really interesting.
And I'm trying to picture what she looks like in ballerina slippers.
Yeah, that's the one thing about this world which makes it so different from the other ones that she's created, is because you have humans, you have shifters, you have fae, you have, I guess, lesser fae, you have angels,
you have nymphs, you
mermaids.
have mermaids or merfolk, you have vampires. It's a smorgasbord, as they would say.
Yeah, it's a very rich world.
Yeah.
Every being is divided into houses, and each of the books is named after that house, which also makes me very excited because one of the houses, House of Many Waters, there was speculation that House of Flame and Shadow would be the final book, but to me that never made any sense because there's 4 houses.
Right.
And Sarah has, although sometimes Sarah confirms but doesn't confirm, that there are 4 houses.
There's no commitment to her quote unquote confirmations.
But I think she has hinted at that there will be another Crescent City book. I know there will be more ACOTAR books, which is very exciting.
Well, I mean, didn't she say in one of her interviews that there are 4 houses, so why wouldn't there be 4 books?
Yes.
So that to me is like a hard confirmation that there will be I guess a completion of the series, like a whole wrap up of the world, and hopefully we'll get it a lot sooner than 2 years.
We shall see. So Hunt, Bryce, Rune, and Ethan, they all sort of eventually get dragged into. For those who, like I've said, have read the first book, that the humans of Midgard are there's a contingent of humans who are part of this rebel alliance.
Not the good rebel alliance from Star Wars. This is prejudicial and mass genocide.
I guess it depends on who you're talking to. But so they are part of this human rebel alliance, which is essentially trying to overthrow the Asteri, who are the ruling powers of Midgard. And they also want to, you later learn, sort of divest Vanir, which are like the shifters, the fae, the wolves, of their power, and sort of bring humans back to power. Because in this world, which it hasn't yet been explained, but hopefully Sarah will explain, humans are essentially second-class citizens. They have the status of being part of a house, but I get the feeling that's about the extent of it. So what this Rebel Alliance wants to do is put back humans as the top inhabitants of Midgard, and Vanir would almost revert to being second-class citizens.
Which, I mean, that doesn't help anybody, because then you're just going to get another rebellion, and the vicious cycle will continue.
Yeah,
they're going about it all wrong. It's I don't like them, if you can't tell.
Yeah. So,
and
yeah.
Philippa, I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but Philippa is one of the leaders of this group that has essentially infiltrated the city.
Yeah. So basically the main characters, in spite of their best efforts to remain outside of politics, to remain outside the rebellion, they're drawn into it with the arrival Rune, who's one of the Fae princes, who's also the half brother of Bryce. He has a cousin named Cormac, and Cormac arrives and he sort
Through
of
a veil of shadows.
Yes, he upends Bryce and Hunt's attempts at normalcy by essentially saying that he and Bryce are engaged, that the marriage has been arranged by his father, by Bryce's father, and that Bryce will sort of toe the line, behave as she should. Bryce, of course,
being Bryce,
gives him the finger, being who she is, and she's not going to sort of live up to the expectations of her parents.
I have to ask, when you read that part, were you like me and going, "What? No,
not really.
Sarah, what are you doing?"
Not really, because like I knew that Bryce and Hunt were not going to sort of not do anything, and knowing who Bryce is, she's not going to do what's expected of her, and she's not going to do what she's told. She has a very rebellious. So I wasn't too concerned about Cormac. Really, like,
you weren't?
No, like honestly, I wasn't. It was more like, oh, he's an interesting character.
Well,
like,
if you
why
guys,
are you here?
if you guys felt like that, please let us know, because I don't want to be the only one who felt like that.
Yeah, and without giving, because there's a lot. The book, there's a lot of POVs. There are so many events taking place. There are so many players in this game. And eventually it comes to Bryce and Hunt's attention that there was this young woman named Sophie, who you learn was half Thunderbird, half human. And Thunderbirds, according to what the propaganda that the Asteria have put out, were supposed to have been wiped out.
Yeah.
Somehow her grandmother survived the purge, mated with a human, and Sophie inherited her veneer powers, but she still is half human, so she was sort of essentially able to pass.
Yeah.
She was part of the rebel resistance to some extent. She had been collecting very important information. You're not told what the information is at this point.
But I think we come to realize very early on that she's a double agent.
Yes. So she collected this information. However, she unfortunately passes away before she can hand over the information.
Thanks to the Hind.
Yes. And so Bryce and Hunter are sort of drawn into this because Sophie has a younger brother who has Thunderbird powers as well, or so the people who are seeking him believe. So he's sort of being sought after by the human rebellion. The River Queen has a vested interest in finding this boy. So he's being hunted, and also the sort of strong arm of the Asteria are also interested in tracking down this boy. So he's a young boy of 13 years of age who's being hunted down by 3 different factions,
which is
so to
terrifying.
Speak. Yeah, so Bryce and Hunt, Bryce, especially being who she is, she can't see someone in need of help and not help this person.
And of course, when they start helping, it slowly unravels so many other secrets, so many other conspiracies, and what Bryce, and to some extent Hunt, thought that they were just coming in to save this boy, it clearly becomes something far more sinister, far more risky and deadlier than they thought that they were actually getting themselves into. Yeah. And what I would like to, just to backtrack, I want to say that I think the way Sarah writes couples or mates, I think she does a very good job at writing them, because with some authors, not all authors, but with some authors, when they're in like this romantasy genre or paranormal romance or whatever, if there's like a book series, the characters get into a relationship within like the last half of the book during like some like peril, and then by the second book their relationship has somehow dramatically gone to the next level without really establishing a foundation.
Yeah.
I like how, yes, in the first book, Hunt and Bryce do have a smutty scene that's ultimately interrupted. They don't really go that far. But like within like the start of the second book, they're taking it slow. They haven't like gone to that next step yet because they don't really know each other. Within like the first book, they only know each other as Hunt's like this detective almost, and Bryce is like his suspect, and it's not really, there's no really room for any of that like romantic foundation.
Yeah.
Unlike in the second book where they actually start having that foundation, and then their relationship slowly but surely, like, not slowly. I mean, it is a slow burn. It's definitely a slow burn. But it progresses in a more organic and natural way than boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and suddenly they're in a relationship because of some paranormal or supernatural force.
No, I definitely agree. The way that Bryce and Hunt's relationship is written, it's probably, in my opinion, one of the better relationships of the 3 series that she has written.
Okay.
It's one, I think, where like the first instance of the characters meeting, and another person or more than one person on Book Talk has brought this up too, where it's one of the relationships that isn't founded on a foundation of violence.
Mm-hmm.
When Hunt first meets Bryce in the first book, she's been attacked by a demon. Her leg is torn, and Hunt stitches her up.
Yeah.
So one book talker mentioned where their relationship begins on an act of healing, like literal healing.
Yeah.
Whereas with many of the other relationships, that's not how they begin.
Right.
There's like an act of violence.
Yeah.
And it is very true. Hunt and Bryce's relationship starts on a point of healing.
Yeah.
And there is a nice progression because naturally, too, as you stated in the first book, it's not really about the romance. It's about the upheaval that Bryce experiences, the loss of a beloved friend.
Right. And then to also some extension, Hunt's upheaval as well.
Yes.
Like he has almost like an existential crisis because what he thought he was being a part of ultimately was not what he was being a part of. I don't know if I had stated that correctly, clearly, but
because as you learn, Hunt participated hundreds of years prior to a rebellion which failed.
Right.
So when Hunt sees that Bryce is being drawn into rebel activities, not necessarily that she is joining the rebels, but the fact that she is in pursuit of Emil, who is Sophie's brother, puts her sort of in the path of other rebels.
Yes.
Double agents. You learn that Cormac is an agent.
Is a double agent
for the human rebellion, that he is assisting them, and there are other Vanir who also assist because they believe in a just world and overthrowing the Asteri, of ending the class hierarchies.
Right.
And Hunt desperately wants Bryce to avoid this because he knows the people that if the Asteri and their agents find them, they will be brutalized. It will not end well. Hunt has experienced that. He's experienced being brutalized.
Yeah.
He's experienced being imprisoned. He's experienced the loss of friends.
Yep.
So he doesn't want Bryce involved in this.
Yeah.
And in spite of their efforts to sort of lie low, it's almost impossible to do so.
Yeah.
The Asteri's eyes are everywhere, both in the literal sense where Lunathion has cameras everywhere.
Yep.
It's a highly monitored society.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that a part of me almost believes that within their friend group, there is someone who is working for the Asteri. But I'll save those thoughts for later. Yeah, like a part of me kind of wonders. Because and I'll save it for when we actually do the live, because when I was doing a reread, there was an instance where the Hind and the Harpy, who are both very sadistic people,
and they're agents of the Asteri.
Yeah, they meet at a bar, and Rune is there with Ethan, and the Hind says something to Rune. I'm not going to say what it is, But the first time I read it, it sort of didn't register for me.
Yeah.
But now, reading it now, it's like, that's interesting because there's no way for the Hind to know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go into it when we do the live. Something about it made me question another character. But I said I'll save that for when we to see if anyone else has the same kind of thoughts.
Right.
But yeah, so naturally being drawn into this, and even when you think of Therian, who is one of my favorite characters, he is our merman. He is an agent of the River Queen, and he is essentially bound in more than one way to the River Queen, who is
it's like seemed that he had done that under duress.
Yeah.
That
well, yeah, he's definitely pursuing Emil. Sorry, I almost forgot Sophie's brother's name. He's definitely pursuing Emil because the River Queen wants him.
Right.
The River Queen is one of those figures where we don't know too much about her. I'm hoping when we get the book House of Many Waters, we will know more about her.
Yeah.
Because I feel there's more to her than meets the eye. And there's several characters, and like I said, when we get to the live, I'll mention this, that have this appearance of cruelty, but I believe there's more to them.
Of course.
The River Queen is one of those characters where I believe behind her veneer of cruelty, of she very much has the interests of the blue world, of her river kingdom. That's the forefront of her mind, which makes sense. She's a ruler. You know that there are other queens. You haven't met them yet. They're her sisters.
They're sisters, yep.
But she wants Emil, and Therian has the unfortunate responsibility of tracking him down.
Yep.
So he also talks with Bryce, and that's what also initially gets Bryce involved in this, where Therian says, I'm looking for this boy. You know, will you help me? And Bryce essentially does not understand why Therian wants Emil. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to hand him over. But eventually, as the story progresses, you learn more and more about the motives behind each of the characters.
Yeah.
And how each character is operating under certain constraints. Mm-hmm. Which is also the beauty of Sarah's writing.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple things happening. You think you know the motives of a character. You think you know where things are going. And you find out, nope, I've been wrong.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah. So I don't want to say too much more because, like I said, we have another meeting and then we have the live. But was there something that you wanted to sort of end on?
This will be my second read through, and I will try as hard as I can to pick up on anything that hints at what could possibly happen in the third book. I'm not that intuitive on stuff like that, but just that I love these characters and I don't want to see anything bad happen to them. And and like I said, that's more for, I think, when we have our second talk about this, when we talk about more of the nitty gritty stuff about the characters. But I feel like we covered everything that.
Yeah, because like I said, we don't want to talk about too much because we also want to save a lot of stuff for the Instagram live.
Yeah.
So we hope that you enjoyed this recording. As always, like, subscribe, and let us know what you think. How far along are you in House of Sky and Breath? And if you are interested in House of Sky and Breath, we do have our streaming services of Libby and Hoopla, and you can find the books, especially. Well, they don't have the graphic audio of these books yet.
No.
But these books are in Libby. They are in the system. So if you have any questions about Libby, come talk to us and we'll talk all about it. It's an excellent service with ebooks, audiobooks, magazines. It's fantastic. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.